On the night of independence, August the 14th, 1947, staff at Lahore railway station were hosing down pools of blood from the platform. Minutes earlier, a last group of Hindus had been massacred by a Muslim mob as they sat waiting for the Bombay Express. On the stroke of midnight, 300 years of British rule had come to a cataclysmic end. The streets around the station were littered with dead, victims of the riots that had followed the partition of India and Pakistan. As the last British officials took the train from Lahore, they saw their entire life's work in ruins. Today, half a century after the massacres, Lahore station is calm after midnight. But this building, like so many that the British built here, has a story to tell. From this station ran the railway lines which once bound the subcontinent together, and which were also to play a central role in its bloody division. As a tape of the Carpenter's greatest hits plays incessantly on the tannoy, Lahore railway station is buzzing like a kicked beehive, and it's barely 6:30 a.m. Lahore is the busiest station in Pakistan and one of the biggest in the subcontinent, with 90 trains coming and going around the clock.
Salam alaikum, Bhai Sahab.
Wa alaikum assalam, sir.
Can I have a ticket to Gujarat, please?
You please contact window number 3.
How many windows are there?
There are 9 windows total here.
And each one has different stations?
Yes, sir.
Acha.
Of course.
This is a wonderful whole machine you have
Hello,
here.
please. You belong to Britannia?
To Britannia.
Okay. Is there this system existing there like this?
I think, yes, in some stations, maybe still.
Oh, okay.
In old days, many stations had this.
It is from 1861. This system was introduced by Great Britain in Indo-Pak.
Really?
When there was no partition
Acha.
between Pakistan and India.
To speed up ticket selling or...
But we have introduced too many systems after this. But all system has been failed.
The station rears out of the surrounding anarchy of Lahore like a fairy tale castle. It is not, however, a romantic folly. Lahore is within marching distance of the northwest frontier, and the Victorians saw it as an important defensive post against a Russian invasion through the Khyber Pass. Moreover, the station was designed in the aftermath of the Indian Mutiny of 1857. So the architect, William Brunton, built it to function not only as a station, but also as a fort.
Lahore station may look as if it's the product of some thankfully short-lived collaboration between the Raj and the Disney Corporation, but it was in fact built in deadly earnest. The towers appear to be as innocent as hugely enlarged Swiss cuckoo clocks, but they were deliberately designed to be bomb-proof, while the loopholes across the facade are not mock arrow slits as they appear to be, but placements for Maxim guns, which were drawn down carefully designed lines of fire.
Even the cavernous train sheds could, in an emergency, be sealed with huge sliding metal doors, turning the whole complex into a colossal fortified bunker. But Brunton's architecture was never put to the test. For despite the bloodshed during partition, in the 19th century, the station became a symbol of the profitable partnership Britain developed with its greatest colony, as the railways stitched the subcontinent together. In an age when we look upon steam trains as objects of nostalgia, it's difficult to take in the sheer scale of the railway revolution in India. Before the arrival of the railways in 1850, travel meant months of struggle over primitive dirt roads. Just 50 years later, 23,000 miles of track had been laid. It was the biggest and the costliest construction project ever undertaken by a colonial power. Engineers looped tracks over the steepest mountains in the world, sunk foundations into the billowing deserts, bridged rivers as turbulent as the Ganges and the Indus. As journey time shrank, India became aware of itself for the first time as a single, unified nation. You can still see the scale of this enterprise at the locomotive workshops near Lahore station. Here, 12,000 workers toil on machines, which are often over a century old. By the mid-19th century, the railways became a symbol of all the Raj liked to pride itself on being: intrepid, pioneering and up-to-date, on the cutting edge of the Industrial Revolution. Even today, harumphing colonels will point to the railways as a symbol of everything they like to think the British gave to India. Yet the railways were not works of charity. They were sound commercial enterprises, and the private investors who put up the initial capital saw their money returned many times over.
Myself, I'm from England. I'm a humble traveller. The railways also brought social change, but there could be no caste or social distinctions in a railway carriage. You just bought your ticket and you took your place. For the first time in Indian history, a Maulvi who spent his days contemplating the glorious Quran might find himself sitting next to a Hindu untouchable who spent his days skinning dead cows. For better or worse, India was on the move.
At Lahore station, you can see how India took to the railways in a way that could not have been imagined by the British. For just as India has always seduced and transformed its conquerors, so it slowly took over and Indianized the railways, with whole villages washing, sleeping and cooking as they waited on the platforms. Within a few years, something quintessentially English had been transformed forever into something quintessentially Indian. Hindus brought up in the caste system delighted in the hierarchy of the railways, with a pyramid that rose rank after rank, from the humble platform sweepers to the lofty Brahminical heights of the general manager. To the Muslims, too, there may have been something appealing in submission to a railway timetable as merciful, omnipotent and inflexible as the great Quran itself.
So after 12 years service, you become, as a ticket inspector,
Yes.
you become a special ticket inspector.
Yes, and then my promotion is start as a group inspector.
Acha.
GISTE.
What grade is that?
The grade is 12.
And how many grades are there in all?
7, 9, 11, 12, 14. 14 is the boss.
Close by, in the headquarters of Pakistan Railways, the British love of bureaucracy has been taken to dizzying heights. Somehow, the idea of multiple forms, triplicate permissions and strict codes of practice, ideas that originated in Crewe perhaps, or maybe Swindon, have taken on a whole new lease of life in the plains of the Punjab.
English motor here?
Yes.
Yes?
Fine.
The corporate plan 1997 to 8.
Yes.
So this is where all the forms that are filled in, they all end up in here? Is that all these? So when we fill up a form at the station in triplicate, it goes here? how long do you keep the files here for? There seem to be so many.
Oh, those files which are lying there since my birth.
Since before your birth?
Yeah.
Can I have a look?
Yeah, why not?
Thank you so much. Well, looks as if we've got some fantastic examples of Pakistani bureaucracy here. What date is this? 1945, dating from the Raj.
Here you find, listed and filed, complaints like the one concerning the 6-hour delay of the Frontier Mail on the 9th of August, 1945. The result, it turns out, of a Hindu driver refusing to proceed through a herd of cows on the track.
Assalamu alaikum, Bhai Sahab. This is number 3 window?
Yes, yes.
Is this the right one for Gujarat?
Contact the information office.
Not right, this one. Acha, thank you. Is this the information office?
Yeah, this is ladies' window. Please attend this account.
Gentleman next door. Thank you. This is the information office.
Yeah.
Can I get a ticket for Gujarat here?
Yes, you can, but from next office.
Which window?
From 1 number window.
Bhai Sahab, this is window number 1.
Yes.
Can I have a ticket to Gujarat?
Which class?
AC.
AC class. You go to window number 3.
I've been to number 3.
Yes, window number 3.
Okay. Bhai Sahab, I'm back again. Can I have a ticket to Gujarat?
Yes.
But last time you said to go to the information office.
Well,
Now it's okay.
it's okay.
Okay. Can I have one ticket to Gujarat?
Today, there are still a few left who remember the station at the height of its glory. Khwaja Bilal was the station master before independence.
लाहौर स्टेशन जो है ना जब मैं स्टूडेंट था उस ज़माने से मैं यहाँ आता था और हमारा कॉलेज भी यहाँ से आती था तो उस ज़माने से मैं इसको जानता हूँ लेकिन पार्टीशन से पहले जब पार्टीशन डिक्लेयर हो गई है तो लाहौर स्टेशन जो है ये एक खूबसूरती का एक निशान था यहाँ काम इंक्वायर आदमी होते थे वेल ड्रेस्ड यूनिफॉर्म देखने वाली बटन पॉलिश हुए हुए कैप और डोरियाँ लगी हुई सुनहरी और लाइट के साथ उनमें चमकते हुए होते हैं यूनिवर्सिटी अंग्रेज़ ने एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन रखी है उसका कोई जवाब नहीं
If Lahore is one of the greatest cathedrals to the railway mania of the Raj, then Walton Railway Training College is its principal seminary. Here, a few minutes from the station, generations of Indians were initiated into the mysteries of the railway religion, emerging fully conversant with a sacred language, the Sanskrit of the railroads.
When a train is to be received, the line shall be cleared of 180 meters in advance of starter. This is for the condition for lowering of home and departure signals.
I don't understand what a home signal is.
Home signal is the signal which is 400 meters away from the station.
In the signals training room, built in 1929, trainees are taught on a perfect replica of the Lahore to Rawalpindi line. They learn about points and interlocking, and machines that issue little steel balls.
The hand has given the egg. It is an authority to proceed for the driver to enter the next block section. It is delivered to the driver.
Abdul Majid has been teaching the principles of the Neil's token instrument since the birth of Pakistan.
At Walton, people seem to take the railways very seriously, almost as if it's a sacred duty. Is that true?
I think we should, and I always took my duty as a sacred duty, just like my religious functions. I never came to my class without washing myself, just like preparing for my prayers.
And how has the railways changed in all the, 40 years you've been part of it?
Sir, not only railways. The change is not only in the railways, but the change is in the general sphere of life.
In what way?
In the shape of corruption, in the shape of requirements, in the shape of evils, in the shape of thinkings, in the shape of harassment, in the shape of sabotages.
But has corruption now eaten into the railway system?
Sir, you can just imagine, when I was working as station master, people used to adjust their watches by the passage of trains.
And now?
And now, we adjust our watches from the public.
Not as easy as it looks. But while this gospel was being passed on from Walton generation to generation, outside the railway yards, rebellion was growing. Protests for the British to quit India grew, and by the late 30s it was clear that the end of British rule was imminent. By the early 40s, it was becoming equally certain that Muhammad Ali Jinnah's Muslim League would accept nothing less than a separate state for India's Muslims, to be named Pakistan. Finally, Lord Mountbatten, the last British Viceroy, announced that on August the 14th, 1947, India would be partitioned into 2 countries, and that the following day, the British would leave the subcontinent forever. Lahore became part of Pakistan, just 15 miles from the Indian border. The city and its people were torn apart. Thousands of Hindus and Sikhs fought their way to the station to flee to India, as the trains arrived bringing thousands of Muslims to their new homeland. The station became a battleground. Barely suppressed religious hatreds rose to the surface between the 2 rival streams of refugees, and the violence erupted. The slaughter began.
अगस्त को मैं ड्यूटी पर था और जब हमने ऐलान सुना वो ये पार्टीशन का तो मैंने सारे स्टाफ को बता दिया कि पार्टी हो गई है तो उन्होंने देखा कि यहाँ तो कत्लेआम हो रहा है बुरा हाल है और जिधर जाओ शूटिंग है इधर जाओ लैंड ऑर्डर को नहीं और उधर बाहर मिलिट्री ने बार लगा के रास्ता बंद कर दिया था nobody could come and go outside. The situation is out of control.
I was in charge of an area which was very highly explosive. Reports came in that as the trains streamed in from India and Pakistan, that there were a lot of dead bodies in them. Those coming from the interior of what is now Pakistan had dead bodies of non-Muslims, and those coming from India had Muslim dead bodies. And there was a free-for-all at the Lahore railway station, and people had taken over the overbridge to stop non-Muslims leaving. They had captured the overbridge and had mounted machine guns on it. So I, with a little force that we had in those days, I rushed to that place and we cleared the overbridge.
सुबह 8 बजे 9 बजे करीब ये बॉम्बे एक्सप्रेस वहाँ से आई वाया बठिंडा दिल्ली से उसमें तकरीबन 1,500 आदमी होते हैं तो वो सारी खाली थी देयर डेड बॉडी लाइन देयर ऑन दी लेटर्स में सीटों के नीचे मरे पड़े हैं आदमी और सारी ट्रेन का हमने पता किया कोई आदमी जिंदा नहीं था सिर्फ एक आदमी आया उसने कहा जिससे मैं बचाऊँ ये बठिंडे स्टेशन पर कत्लेआम हुआ था सबों ने कत्ल कर दी तो मैं ड्राइवर के पास गया ड्राइवर अंग्रेज था उसने मुझे पनाह दी कि गेम ये फ्यूज तो मैं उसके ऊपर इंजन पर जाके उसे पानी के टैंक के अंदर चुप गया और सिख आए और उन्होंने देखा तो आदमी आ गए उन्होंने कहा कोई नहीं जाने तो आई सेव माई लाइफ द ओनली वन मैन सेव आउट ऑफ 2000.
Over the next few months, trainload after trainload of refugees came and went from Lahore. A young Lieutenant Wajahat Hussain, just 19 years old at the time, was in charge of a military train. He remembers the scene as he neared the station.
Well, we arrived fairly late in the evening. It was getting dark, and there were people right up to the track with their baggage, and there were a lot of dead bodies, and there some bodies were being removed, and there were these very little first aid available, so they were lying and crying and being removed. But the main thing was
thousands of people.
Thousands, more than thousands of people, starting from the outer signal all along. Then it took about an hour or so before we started crawling. And as we were crawling, on both sides of the railway line, all along, all you could see just waves and waves of humanity lying on both sides, crying and shouting.
Huge refugee camps grew with immigrants waiting for trains to take them to their new homeland. 12 million were caught in the turmoil of partition, and 1 million of those died. 15-year-old Abdul Majid waited with his parents.
In the first camp on, say, 8th October, my mother died at about 14 hours due to cholera. And the same day, my father died at 2 a.m. in the morning.
So you lost both your parents in the same day?
On the same day.
Awful.
My father died, and after we buried our mother in the evening, but we buried our father in the morning of 9th October 1947.
And you had to bury them yourselves?
Yes, we buried ourselves, offering our religious prayers. And then we came to the new place from where we had to catch the train. So I entered the train started. When I passed the Beas River in the morning, I say number of corpses being scattered in the riverbed.
How many?
About hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yes, hundreds, in hundreds, from point to point, being eaten by crows, dogs, and kites, giving bad smell. We crossed Pakistan border from Atari at about 15 hours in the evening. We were stunned when people said Pakistan Zindabad. Then we thought we are still alive.
When Lord John Lawrence broke the earth for the future site of Lahore railway station in February 1859, the silver shovel he used bore the Latin motto Tam bello quam pace, better peace than war.
The motto was appropriate because the railways did play a major role in bringing about a peaceful, united India. Ironically, less than a century later, they were also the instrument that brought about the final violent division. Today, the old main line between Lahore and Delhi, once the busiest in India, is now hardly used, reflecting the very bitter relations between the two countries. These days, only 2 trains a week pass up this line from Lahore to the Indian border, and they are nearly always empty.
Next Saturday at the same time, William Dalrymple explores the lavishness of the city of Lucknow.